My name is Eliza Hartwell, and I'm 37 years old. Competence, for me, isn't a speech. It's choreography. The dishwasher flips to off-peak at 12:01 because I told it 2 months ago. The spreadsheet turns its last square green. My house, deed and utilities in my name, breathe steady. A hull with proper ballast. Nobody praises ballast until the boat lurches. Tonight it lurches over dinner. Noah twirls linguine like he's staging an alibi. He's been in therapy long enough to weaponize vocabulary. Everything is alignment and flow and childhood narratives. He compliments the sauce, sets down his fork, leans into the pause the way people do before they say something they've been rehearsing in a mirror. We need to talk about the living situation, he says, not looking up. My pulse doesn't change. I fold my napkin with clinical precision. What about it? He clears his throat. My parents, they're not getting younger. We should move them in. There it is, a line delivered like it's a fact of weather. They golf 3 times a week, I say. Elaine runs a book club that meets in her sunroom. They just did a wine tour in Tuscany. That's not the point, Eliza. We plan ahead. They could have... He stops short of saying a fall, but it hovers like a dropped plate. I let the silence bloom. And where would they live, Noah? He blinks, surprised I'd make him say it. The garage apartment. Your mom would do better in a community. With her peers, activities, medical staff. Ruth is my mother. She's 68, a widow who plants herbs in tea tins and keeps her grief the way you keep valuable things, lovingly wrapped, not for public use. I built the garage studio after my father died. Insulation, a proper kitchenette, a bathroom with a grab bar she refuses to need. She pays her share of the utilities, buys her own groceries, and minds her own quiet. Ruth is not furniture, I say. She doesn't get relocated because your parents prefer the nicer space. His mouth turns soft, reasonable, dangerous. Eliza, be fair. My parents didn't save as much as they should have. They sold the shop at a loss. They're vulnerable. Vulnerable drives a late-model Cadillac and pays cash on cruises. Vulnerable posts beach photos with captions about blessings. I have a rule. When someone says, be fair, they're about to take something you earned. No, I tell him, and my voice doesn't crack. We aren't evicting my mother so your parents can skip landlords. He exhales the way men exhale on podcasts when they're explaining reality. You're choosing Ruth over our future. I am choosing dignity over convenience, I say. It's not the same thing. He goes cold. The argument hangs suspended like a light bulb on a cord, spare, buzzing faintly, illuminating the dust. We clear dishes in practiced silence. He retreats to his phone. I retreat to the small, efficient rituals that keep this ship from listing. At 3:07 a.m., the house is a cathedral of plumbing and wires. I wake with the kind of clarity that makes people call choices inevitable after the fact. It isn't inevitability, it's math. The basement exists. Concrete floor, exposed studs, one bare bulb, boxes that contain a previous life's Halloween, a utility sink, and an original toilet that should have been a historical exhibit. We pretend it's for storage, which is a polite way to say, we never decided. I decide. I spend the next day the way a person spends a long, boring war. Hardware store, thrift shop, receipts that will one day read like foreshadowing. 2 cheap air mattresses, plastic shelving units, a pair of folding chairs, a thrifted dresser with a sticky second drawer, an accordion privacy screen, extension cords, a space heater, a roll of curtains that used to be someone's idea of romance, cleaning supplies, because everything that matters begins with a scrub. The basement yields to order if you come at it sideways. Storage boxes stacked to the left like a polite skyline. Living area to the right, delineated by curtains that pretend they are walls if you don't look too hard. The air mattresses go behind separate ribbons of fabric, a decency I will be accused of lacking. The card table becomes a dining area with seating for 2. The plastic shelves become a closet if you name them hard enough. The space heater, because cold is insult dressed as physics. There's running water from the utility sink. There's a toilet that works and complains at the same time. There's electricity. It is not pretty. It is habitable. I print a lease as a joke to myself, and then, an hour later, as a thesis statement, Gerald and Elaine Whitman to rent lower-level suite for $800 month plus 50% of utility increase. Designated kitchen access windows, 7-8 a.m., 12-1 p.m., 6 to 7 p.m. Quiet hours, 10 p.m. 7 a.m. No unauthorized guests. 30-day mutual termination. $1,600 security deposit. I lay the paper on the card table alongside a pen that works. Upstairs, Noah narrates his righteousness into the phone with his mother. He is so relieved we're aligned, and so proud of Eliza for understanding what family means. Elaine laughs like a spoon in a glass. I could go upstairs and argue. I could set the room on fire with a sentence. Instead, I keep scrubbing. The smell of bleach is its own speech. By the time the sun falls into the street and the house remembers it has a heartbeat, I'm done. My back is a protest. My hands are a map of small cuts. I stand at the base of the stairs and listen to the living room's cheerful hypocrisy. We'll get you settled Sunday, Noah says, and my plan adjusts to that time like a puzzle piece clicking. The next morning, I brew coffee stronger than God thinks polite and sit across from him at the table. You're right, I say. He blinks. Suspicion runs a quick diagnostic. About family first. He softens. Oh, the relief men feel when they think you've capitulated. He reaches for my hand. Thank you. When do your parents get back from Tuscany? I ask. Thursday, he says. Sunday's perfect. I'll tell them. Great, I say, and the word is true. Not good, not kind. Fit. He comes around the table and kisses my hair like a benediction bestowed on the newly converted. He has no idea what religion he thinks I've joined. I spend the rest of the week in that basement, measured labor as devotion. I hang the curtains a little straighter, tape the cords down so no one sues me, put a brand new plunger beside the toilet because fairness is a row of prepared objects. I stand the lease in a clear plastic frame like restaurant menus do when they are very proud of the soup of the day. Upstairs, Ruth makes chamomile and hums. She knows something is wrong the way birds know weather. She doesn't ask. She makes too much soup and labels containers for the freezer in handwriting I will miss for the rest of my life. Saturday night, late, Noah slides behind me at the sink and links his arms around my waist. They're so excited, he murmurs. Mom cried. I dry my hands and set the towel on the oven handle with the exactness of a verdict. There will be rules, I say. Of course, he says, meaning rules for you. They'll contribute, I add. Obviously, he says, meaning I didn't hear you. When I go to bed, I'm already awake inside tomorrow. The air feels charged, like the first second between thunder and rain. Sunday arrives, dressed like a test. A Cadillac noses into the driveway, confident as a yacht. Gerald climbs out in a golf shirt the shade of fresh envy. Elaine steps carefully in flats that cost more than my first car payment. They bring luggage with wheels that whisper wealth and entitlement. Welcome home, Noah says brightly, and I watch the word bend out of shape. Home. Elaine hugs me with the stiff cheer of a woman posing for a church directory. Where's our room? She asks, and the plural pronoun follows her in like perfume. I'll give you the tour, I say. My voice is so calm it sounds sedated. I lead them to the basement door, flick the switch. The bulb wakes, humming. For one breath, there is nothing but the architecture of silence. Then Gerald laughs the way a threat sometimes wears a smile. Very funny. Not a joke, I say. You're sweet. Elaine inhales through her nose like the air offended her. This is a storage room. It's a lower-level suite, I say, gesturing toward what names can make true. Sleeping quarters, dining area, closet space, heated, running water, kitchen windows upstairs, clearly posted. Noah's voice is too high. Eliza! I lift the clear frame from the card table and set it down like a gavel. Lease terms, I say, $800 a month. Utilities split by increase, first and last due at signing. Elaine goes the color of skim milk. You expect us to pay to live in your basement? I expect adults to pull their weight, I say. Family first. Noah looks at me like he doesn't recognize the woman who paid the property taxes for 6 years before he arrived. We talked about the garage. The garage is occupied, I say, by a woman who pays her share and doesn't demand special treatment. Gerald's finger points as if he's singling out a sinner. You smug little... Careful, I say softly. Guest, in my house. The argument rises, operatic. Accusations ricochet off concrete. A curtain trembles because objects absorb weather too. I keep my voice low, steady, like an instrument tuned in secret. You're welcome to stay under the terms I've outlined, I say at last. Or you're welcome to leave. Those are the options. Elaine's eyes shine, angry and wet. Noah's mouth opens and closes like a fish, realizing the bowl has edges. Somewhere overhead, the dishwasher clicks into its next cycle, perfectly on time. I have already chosen the weather. The rest of them are just noticing the rain. Gerald recovers first. We're not living in a cement cellar like raccoons, he says, voice booming, as if volume can turn concrete into cruelty. Elaine lifts the privacy screen with 2 fingers, the way one might test a motel curtain. This is indecent, she murmurs. Curtains instead of walls? A space heater? What if there's mold? There isn't, I say. I scrubbed every surface myself. Noah's eyes ping between us, desperate for an angle that makes me the unreasonable one. Eliza, come on. You knew we meant the garage. I knew you assumed, I say. Assumptions are not contracts. Gerald jabs a thumb toward the stairs. We're not signing anything. Then you're not moving in, I answer. Elaine's voice trembles into theatrics. You're forcing us out after we drove all this way. You drove 20 minutes, I say, in a car with ventilated seats. Noah's face hardens into the mask he uses when he thinks he's performing adulthood. You're being punitive. I'm being consistent, I say, and I let him hear the steel. My mother is not a placeholder. If your parents want to live here, they contribute and respect boundaries. If not, they have a perfectly good house. Gerald swells like a storm front. You're going to regret this. Possibly, I say, but not today. The silence frays. Elaine stares at me as if I've broken an unspoken caste system. Noah gropes for a sentence that will reverse the physics of ownership. When none arrives, he pivots to injury. You humiliated me, he says. You attempted to evict my mother from her home, I answer evenly. Don't confuse an unexpected consequence with humiliation. Elaine's eyes fill, a liquid threat. Let's go, she says to Gerald. We're not staying where we're treated like beggars. I step aside. Take care, I say. And it's not unkind. It just isn't a door. They climb the stairs in a clatter of luggage wheels and wounded dignity. At the threshold, Noah turns back. This isn't over, he says, and I can see him trying the line on for how it sounds. I didn't think it was, I say. The Cadillac peels out too fast, the way people do when they need the sound of tires to say the thing they can't. Upstairs, the house exhales. I turn off the basement light and stand in the sudden dark, counting my heartbeat until it steadies. When I come up, Ruth is at the sink, rinsing a mug she has already rinsed. Her hands are steady. Do I need to leave for a few days? She asks, matter of fact, not martyring herself with it. You live here, I say. People who live here don't leave because other people throw tantrums. She nods. Thought so. She dries her hands and sets the towel down just right. I made stew, enough for an army. We can be our own army. Noah spends the rest of Sunday narrating to his phone in another room. The words basement, cruel, and unbelievable float out like the steam from a kettle you didn't ask to boil. I chop vegetables at a meditative pace and look up the zoning code because pettiness is unhelpful, but preparedness is not. Monday births the silent treatment. It arrives fully dressed. Separate dinners, doors closed too gently to be called slammed, a diplomatic chill arranged over the couch. I sleep fine. This seems to upset him more than shouting would have. By Tuesday, he cracks. You embarrassed my parents, he says without preamble, standing in the doorway of the kitchen, like a man inventing jurisdiction. They embarrassed themselves, I say. They demanded the best accommodations in a house they don't own, for free, and they took offense when the word no didn't bow. He rubs his forehead. You're punishing them for not being you. I'm protecting my mother from being erased, I say, and the truth lands between us with weight. Those are different sports. He makes a sound that could be a laugh or a cough. You don't care about my family. I care about family, I say, and I hold his eyes. That includes mine. He retreats, because there is nowhere safe to put that sentence. Wednesday, I review our joint bills account, habit, ballast, and that's when the red number flashes like a mouth, $2,500 sent to G. Whitman via transfer at 11:42 p.m. the night before, labeled household support. I take a screenshot. Another. Documentation is a love letter to future you. Noah is at the table, scrolling. I set my phone down between us. The way you set down a card you know will take the trick. You move joint money to your parents. His chin goes up a fraction. They're struggling thanks to you. Elaine checked into a casino resort on Saturday, I say. Her geotag was public for 2 hours before she remembered to lock it down. Struggle looks very spa adjacent. It's my money too, he says. It's Bill money, I say. It keeps the lights on for the people who actually live here. He lifts his hands, a theatrical surrender. I'll pay the mortgage this month. You'll pay it every month, I say calmly, because I've moved my contribution to an account you don't have access to. I'll transfer my half directly to the lender. You may use the joint for your half. If you drain it again, I'll close it. He stares at me like I changed a law without asking. You can't just... I can, I say, and I did. He doesn't slam the chair. He places it back with vicious care. The low hum of rage is almost gracious. That night, his sister arrives by proxy. Sabrina's social post lands in my orbit via a coworker who enjoys small fires. A photo of Gerald and Elaine in their sunlit kitchen, captioned, "Some people forget where they came from. Respect your elders or don't call yourself family." Comments spill. Church friends, neighbors, women from a book club who wield scripture like ladles. Noah likes it. Elaine adds a heart. The thread swells with strangers volunteering stories of ingrate daughters-in-law who uprooted mothers or exiled fathers to rooms without windows. I don't reply. I never reply. I take screenshots in tidy rows and put them in a folder labeled paper trail. If there's one thing grief taught me, it's that documentation is not cold. It's a blanket you knit for the day you can't get warm. On Thursday, my phone rings with a number I don't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Elaine, voice pitched to righteousness. Eliza, this isn't acceptable. We raised Noah to expect respect in his own home. My back can't handle concrete floors. Call me so we can arrange the garage. Be reasonable. I forward the message to a folder called audio, and then to an email addressed to myself with the subject line boundary. At lunch, I print this basement lease again, this time on thicker paper. Then I call Trevor. We used to share a cubicle wall. Now he shares calm like a prescription. I read him the clauses while he eats soup and taps keys. It's not enforceable like a landlord-tenant act, he says, but it's not illegal. You can offer terms. If they accept, you have a paper record. If they don't, you have a record of them refusing reasonable, below-market housing. Translate that into confidence, I say. It is confidence, he says. Also, add quiet hours and a mutual 30-day notice clause, and rename the basement. Lower-level suite sounds less like a dungeon. It is a dungeon, I say. And yet, he says. That evening, Noah tries a new tactic. He stands at my mother's door with eyes dampened to a sheen. Ruth, he says, voice broken in the middle. I don't know what's gotten into Eliza. She's changed. I just want us all to be together. Ruth opens the door fully and steps aside so I can see her. She always does that. Brings conversations into the light. Noah, she says gently, I am 68, not 8. If you have something to ask of Eliza, ask it of Eliza. If you have something to ask of me, ask it of me. But don't ask me to translate your wishes into her life. He blinks. He didn't expect to be refused so politely. Wouldn't you be happier with friends your age? He tries, soft as a bribe. I'm happy where my daughter is, Ruth says. I like my herbs. I like my window. I like my quiet. He looks over her shoulder at me, finally. The performance falls. You're really going to do this, he says. I already did, I say. After he leaves, Ruth makes tea. She sets the cup in front of me and touches my wrist once. You can be kind and have a spine, she says. People confuse those because they benefit from the confusion. Later, when the house settles into the small sounds of sleep, I open my laptop and draw new edges. Updated terms for lower-level suite, the subject line reads. I revise the lease with Trevor's edits, add quiet hours, 10 p.m., 7 a.m., specify designated kitchen windows, embed a clause about mutual 30-day notice, and set an offer expiry, 7 days. I attach photos of the space, clean floor, made beds, posted rules. I hit send to Gerald and Elaine, CCing my own archive. 5 minutes later, the reply pings. You are a disgrace. No wonder Noah is miserable. I read it once. Then I drag it into Paper Trail and go brush my teeth. By Friday, the smear posts have migrated from Sabrina's page to the neighborhood group. The comments curdle into armchair law. Elder abuse, one woman types confidently, as if basements are crimes. I take screenshots. I trim screenshots. I label screenshots like a librarian with an enemy. When Noah gets home, he's buoyant, dangerous. I toured a community today, he announces, dropping a brochure on the counter with a photo of a smiling woman playing bridge. It's nice. Close. They have... I don't pick up the brochure. For whom? I ask, and it is not a question. He swallows. Ruth would thrive. Ruth is thriving, I say. What she won't do is vacate her home so your parents can avoid rent. His jaw flexes. You'd really send my parents to a basement rather than be decent? I offered them a safe, clean, heated space at below market rent with access to the kitchen and clear boundaries, I say. They refused. Decency isn't indulgence, Noah, it's equity. He stares at me for a long time. Somewhere outside, a neighbor's wind chime surrenders to a breeze. Finally, he says, very quietly, if you loved me, you'd make this easy. If you loved me, I answer, just as quiet, you wouldn't ask. The words sit between us like twin keys that don't fit any of the locks we own. I sleep with my phone on the dresser, screen down, ring on, not because I'm afraid, because this is the part of the storm where people call the cops and lie. It happens on a Thursday afternoon. The knock you feel before you hear. Firm, official, the kind that has a badge behind it. When I open the door, a uniformed officer shifts his clipboard. Ms. Hartwell, we received a report about unsafe living conditions for seniors on this property. His tone is bored, routine, not righteous. I gesture him inside. Basement, I say simply. He follows me down the steps, light pooling over the cleaned concrete, the curtains, the tidy air mattresses. He looks around like he's at a motel inspection. There's heat, plumbing, electricity, he mutters, tapping boxes on his form. Looks habitable. It is, I say. He glances at me. Some folks file these when there's a family dispute. Document everything. Don't engage, you're fine. I nod. I already am. When he leaves, I sit on the bottom stair for a long time, staring at the single bulb and the lease laminated on the table. Somewhere upstairs, the dishwasher clicks over to its rinse cycle. Perfect timing, as always. That night, Ruth slides a slice of lemon into her tea and watches me. They tried the law, she says quietly. They tried a story, I correct. The law just got invited to listen. She smiles. Then write your own ending first. So I do. The next morning, I emailed Gerald and Elaine a revision. Updated lease, $1,200 month after offer expiration. Same clauses, same photos. Subject line, revised terms for occupancy, second offer. 5 minutes later, a reply arrives. You are mentally unwell. We'll be speaking to our lawyer. I forward it to myself again, labeled retaliation. When Noah gets home, he already knows. You sent them another lease? He demands. I sent them an updated offer, I say. The previous one expired. You're provoking them. I'm offering them options. They don't want your basement, Eliza. Then they don't want to live here, I say. Simple math. He steps closer, voice lowering. You're doing this to punish me. I'm doing this to remember who owns this house, I say, calm as granite. He laughs once, sharp, not for long. I tilt my head. What does that mean? You'll see. He leaves before dinner. His chair stays empty for 3 nights. Sunday. Sabrina posts again. Some people get power and think they're gods. The comments thread like snakes. Elaine's friends offer prayers thinly disguised as curses. Noah likes it from wherever he's staying. Monday. I meet with Trevor at a cafe. He slides a folder across the table. Deed, mortgage, payment records. Your mother's contribution log. I glance at the top sheet. My name, sole owner, purchased with inheritance before Noah moved in. Trevor taps the last page. If this goes nuclear, he has no legal claim to the house. You have proof of everything. Keep copies off-site. I exhale for what feels like the first time in weeks. Good. He studies me. You know this might end your relationship. It ended the moment he suggested institutionalizing my mother, I say. We're just catching up. That evening, Noah reappears. He's careful, shirt pressed, voice measured. I talked to someone, he says. A lawyer. We should discuss asset division. The word drops like ice in boiling water. Your lawyer? He nods. I filed. You'll be served next week. My body doesn't move. Only my pulse changes. Steady. Faster. You're divorcing me over a basement, I say quietly. He folds his arms. Over your stubbornness. I call it boundaries, I say. You call it defiance. Same dictionary, different pages. He leans forward. You'll lose the house, Eliza. I smile, and it isn't kind. You might want to ask your lawyer about deeds. The flash of confusion on his face is the first honest thing I've seen from him in months. Days stretch like wire. Elaine calls Ruth again, voice syrupy and shaking. I'm worried about Noah. She's turned him against his own family. Ruth listens, then says, My daughter didn't turn him. He walked. And hangs up. The next day, a new tactic. Sabrina posts a photo of Noah and Elaine hugging with the caption, Healing After Cruelty. I take the screenshot, file it under smear campaign, and move on. By Thursday, I'm sitting across from my own lawyer, Gina Marks, sharp as cut glass. She flips through the folder Trevor assembled. You're fine, she says. Your name's on the deed. You paid the down payment from inherited funds. You cover 70% of the mortgage. The house is yours. He'll get some equity, maybe $35,000, but not the property. And Ruth, I ask? She's safe. You have tenancy proof, utility bills, her transfer logs. He can't evict her. The relief is physical, a current through bone. Gina closes the folder. He may try to paint you as vindictive. Keep everything tidy. Emails, screenshots, receipts, courts like tidy. I'm an accountant, I say. I invented tidy. That night, Noah returns again, hollow-eyed, righteous. We could still fix this, he says, if you'd apologize. For what? For embarrassing my parents. I offered them a home, I say. They declined. He stares at me, searching for guilt. There isn't any left to find. Finally, he whispers, You'll regret this. I've already done the math, I say. Regret isn't in the budget. He sleeps in the guest room that night. The next morning, half his clothes are gone. Ruth finds me in the kitchen, hands wrapped around her mug. Peace? She asks. Process, I answer. The weeks that follow are a slow unthreading. Elaine calls my relatives, claiming I'm abusive. My Aunt Rita calls me, alarmed. She says you locked them out, I explain. Rita snorts. Tell her to block me next time she calls. Save us both time. She does. Noah tries one more gambit, showing up at Ruth's door while I'm at work. I get the call mid-meeting. Sweetheart, Ruth says softly. He's crying again. Put him on speaker, I say. Eliza, he starts, voice breaking perfectly. You've changed. We could go to counseling, please. Counseling won't change ownership documents, I say. Goodbye, Noah. He starts to protest, but Ruth ends the call with surgical precision. When I get home, she's trimming basil on the counter. He'll stop, she says, when he runs out of versions of himself to perform. I laugh, but it sounds like grief's cousin. By the time the divorce papers arrive, they're anticlimactic, stamped, cold, administrative. The settlement talks are tedious but predictable. He wants the house. He gets equity. He wants spousal support. Gina raises an eyebrow until he drops it. He wants his parents vindicated. The law doesn't do emotional favors. In mediation, he says, You stole my life. I answer, I just stopped subsidizing it. When it's done, the quiet feels enormous. Ruth makes soup again. I repaint the bedroom. The basement waits, unchanged, except for dust motes and the faint scent of bleach. I think about turning it into a workshop, maybe a studio. Then I decide to leave it alone, my monument to what happens when people confuse kindness with compliance. A week later, a text arrives from an unknown number. Gerald, Elaine's sick, hospital, tell Noah to call. I stare at it, the nerve of it. I forward it to Noah directly. Your father says your mother's in the hospital. Thought you should know. Then I block Gerald's number. No response. None needed. That night, Ruth and I eat on the porch. Crickets trade gossip in the grass. Do you miss him? She asks. I think for a long moment. I miss who he said he was, I say, but I don't miss who he turned out to be. She nods, eyes soft. Family first, she says quietly. Exactly, I say. Ours. The porch light hums, steady as the house around us. Solid, owned, unshakable. And somewhere beneath our feet, the basement sleeps, holding its own kind of truth. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're ballast.